we don't know what to pray for as we ought to. Even if you know what you need, you don't know the extent to pray it. So stop distracting yourself with prayer points. Become a man of prayer. And all your prayer points will be answered. You won't even know when. Because when you say Kabarado Kunakada, Dadale Kanzizi, Zanzaka Foratigadai, you have answered 10 prayer points. Even the ones you don't know. You are praying for an interview. Meanwhile, there is an accident ahead. How do you know there's an accident? Except as you switch out of human frequency and you enter the angelic frequency. So I was praying for interview. Lord, I will have the job. And all of a sudden, the spirit of prayer comes on me. Marak, Dakido, Bakada, Dadali, Tana. I leave the interview. I face the accident. And I shift the accident away. And then I come back to my interview. That's the way of prayer. When men cry, angels wonder. You have what we don't have. How come you are disadvantaged? Because you don't use what you have. A man will go looking for another man for 3 weeks. Meanwhile, his altar is desolate for 3 weeks. Because there's a misplacement of priorities. You can't talk on your altar for 30 minutes, but you can go and narrate your story to somebody for 2 hours. Meanwhile, before you came, the person told the wife, why is this person troubling me? And then you came, you are talking. He said, oh. And then you now think that, oh boy, and they make point too. You now went further. And then you talk. When you finish talking for 2 hours, you will say, hey, brother, times are hard now. But I will think about what you have said. The moment you go, he will tell his wife, please, next time he comes, lock the door. Meanwhile, the door of heaven is open to you. You have never accessed it. Before you talk to men, talk to God. Elohim Madonna. Elohim Madonna. Elohim Madonna. God told Abraham to go to Bethel. When Abraham came, the Canaanites were there. A man who doesn't know who talks to him would have gone to ask, who does heads business here? Who rears animals here? Because he wants to build human connection. When Abraham came, the first thing the Bible said was that he went and pitched an altar. He built an altar. His greatest fraternity was not with men, it was with altars. Abraham didn't go looking for the richest man in the land. And I'm not saying that's wrong if God is leading you. But Abraham built an altar. And from that altar, the king came and met him. On his altar, the king came and met him there. And the king said, please, let us go into a covenant. Because I have seen that you are greater than us. And when Abraham was leaving, he taught Isaac the same principle. And Isaac at first wanted to be human. When he wanted to run from Gerar to Egypt, he says, stay still in Gerar. Go and do what your father taught you. And in Gerar, the guy built an altar. It was on that altar that the Bible said, Isaac became great and exceeding great until the Philistines envied him. So much so that the king was afraid. And the king said, wait. You and I need to go into an agreement. Because if we don't, you are bigger than us. How can one man be bigger than a nation? It is the technology of altars. Have you not seen people? They are lone rangers. They are just preaching. Reinhard Bonnke had no church. But if Reinhard Bonnke is coming to a city, the whole churches will gather and all the pastors will become ushers. General overseers. Some are general overseers of churches in 10 nations. But if Reinhard Bonnke is coming, even the general, or they will have what they call Central Executive Council. And his senior pastors that struggle to be there. When Reinhard Bonnke finishes, they will take offering. He will give them to help them. He will leave the offering to help the territory. He had no church. But by prayer, the man became so big that he was bigger than continents. Meanwhile, we are strategizing in the flesh because we know if we don't do this, when we are old, we'll be small. A man who prays is never small because he has company on earth and in heaven. Whatsoever he doeth, it shall prosper. For those of you who are young, you have an advantage. You don't need a house yet. You're on campus. So what you are doing now is that you are storing investment in the spirit. When you come out as a youth corper, somebody will dash you a house. And then they are wondering about you. They're lucky. There is nothing such as luck on the face of the earth. There are over 8 billion people on earth. Do you know when your turn will come if you are waiting for luck? That's why we change things in the spirit. Because we know if it is luck, you may be 90 years old before your turn comes. And then they give you a house at the age of 90. What do you do with it? They give you money at the age of 90. They say, come and go to America. And then you enter the plane. When you land, your whole body is aching. And the moment you enter America, you have pneumonia because you can't manage cold. Because you waited to be old. God told you you are a healing minister. And then you did nothing about it on the altar. Until when you are 70 years old, you now say you want to start a revival campaign. Which revival campaign? Even if you are raising the dead, if you go for one crusade and come back, my back, you will lie down for 1 month. That's why he said now is the time. Today is the day of salvation. So if you are not praying, start praying now. You tap into the frequency of your blessings when you pray. And the reason is because your blessing is in heavenly places. Number 2, we were not ordained to beg. We were not ordained to look for favor. We were not ordained to suffer. And I will explain to you. The suffering of a believer is not hardship, it's persecution. If a man is going through hardship, that's not of God. It is his inability to deploy the resources of wisdom, hard work, intelligence that makes him go through hardship. The suffering of a believer is trials and persecution. They are two different things. So you were not ordained to suffer. You were not ordained to look for favor. You were not ordained to beg. Why? Because he made us kings and priests. Kings don't beg. So when a believer is begging, there is a problem. If a believer is running around looking for favor, there is a problem. By reason of his ordination, favor should look for him. Because he's a king. Have you seen a king who goes about before looking for who will help him? People come to his house with gifts. But what is the problem? The problem is that you only have power to command after you have prayed. That means your word will not have power and authority if you don't pray. In Mark 11, 22, 23, 24, Jesus said, have faith in God. He said, I tell you most assuredly, if you will speak to this mountain and say to it, be thou removed, and you do not doubt in your heart, you will have whatsoever you say. And he went further. In verse